don't know when it all started to go wrong, but I'm exhausted. Every relationship feels like work. Every moment that I'm awake feels like work. Nothing ever happens. No one ever likes me. Hello everyone and welcome or welcome back eventually. The quote I just read is from the 2020 Korean drama My Liberation Notes, a show that is so underrated. On the one hand, I think the K-drama fandom doesn't appreciate it enough because it's not your usual bubbly, cheesy rom-com or horror thriller genre. And on the other hand, I think everyone outside of those fandoms won't even watch one episode because of their prejudices. Anyway, it's a brilliant show. Unfortunately, I can't show you any clips because of copyright reasons, but we still go through that and will take a closer look at the show because it deals with something that's quite overlooked. Introversion. Before you even question my contradiction to the presence of introverts all over social media, hear me out. The internet has created a safe space for introverts, which I myself, an introvert, am very thankful. While the hashtag extrovert has less than 300,000 posts, the hashtag introvert has over 2.7 million shares on Instagram. Sorry, I'm too old to do my research on TikTok, but Instagram also does the job. Of course, this is not a race, but it's interesting how the number of people who see themselves as introverts is increasing. My take is introversion is somehow easier than extroversion, but only to an extent. We'll come to that. I mean, we can enjoy our time alone without anyone. We can find comfort in solitude. And increasingly, introverts are resilient in social environments. However, as the Turkish saying goes, azı karar, çoğu zarar. First things first, we have to look into the meaning of introversion and extroversion because it's not only my sentiment that our daily use of those terms and their original meaning are quite distinct. The website myers-briggs.org, you all might know from the 16 personality types, suggests that we tend to associate sociability and outgoingness with extroverts, whereas introverts are perceived as shy and withdrawn. And it draws attention to its original meaning in the Jungian sense, which is that extroverts orient their energy from the outer world, while introverts orient their energy from the inner world. I have always been curious about the original meaning, so I looked a little further into Jung's definition. The famous Swiss psychiatrist Carl Jung bases his psychological approach on the following statement. My energetic conception of mental phenomena. I assume a hypothetical energy which I designate as horme. Jung's understanding of horme is very similar to Henry Bergson's concept of élan vital. I most likely mispronounced that, which refers to a vital force or impulse that drives and animates. For Jung, horme is an energetic expression for psychological values. He suggests that it plays a crucial role in influencing and shaping human behavior and mental processes. To come back to our actual terms, the introverted type is characterized by the fact that they apply their horme chiefly to themselves, finding the unconditioned values within themselves. On the other hand, the extroverted type applies their horme to the external world, to the object, the non-ego, finding the unconditioned value outside themselves. The introverted individual considers everything from the perspective of the value of their own ego, while the extroverted individual depends on the value of their object. My understanding of psychology is very superficial. That's why I won't continue lecturing you on something I can't grasp myself fully. I just wanted to point out the distinct use of introversion and extroversion in their original meaning and our daily use, because my sentiment is the more we discharge those terms from their original meaning, the more harmful their embracement can get. Extroversion shouldn't make us completely dependent on other people, and introversion shouldn't completely distance us from them. Now let's see how my liberation notes deals with that. The first and last moments of every story are said to be the most important. This may not apply universally, but it does for sure for my liberation notes. The opening scene introduces us to our protagonist Mijong within a group of people. The direction immediately signals that we will witness her journey and highlights her discomfort in her current social setting. This is further reinforced when we learn that the people she is with are her co-workers and they criticize Mijong because she doesn't want to attend any of her company's social clubs. Although the story expands beyond Mijong, delving into the lives of her older brother and sister, who face their own challenges in love and career life, the focus remains on Mijong and her personal growth. Living with their parents in the countryside of Seoul and commuting to their office jobs, the narrative follows these three adults as they navigate the pressure and challenges of modern society. We could look into each of their stories for various themes and topics, but as we are only focusing on introversion, we'll keep up with Mijong and her journey. Disclaimer, I'm not a therapist and I'm definitely not in the position to diagnose characters randomly. However, I think it's safe to say that Mijong's character exhibits extreme introversion and a kind of depression. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Although her state doesn't necessarily apply to every form of introversion, her character development serves as a compelling example of overcoming the difficulties many introverts encounter, even if it's not extreme. I think at some point everyone can feel exhausted from social interactions. Since I myself have never experienced extreme extroversion, of course I can't speak for everyone, but I assume even those with a very high social battery have moments where they just feel like being alone. Being on your own can feel so comforting and easy that you get used to it in no time and even can lose complete touch to the outside. Just after the lockdown, I witnessed so many people who had difficulties with adapting to their usual social lives. When we don't cherish our relationships enough and try to maintain them, we can completely get disconnected from everyone around us. Without measuring the extent, let's look into the introversion portrayed in my liberation notes. As someone who watched the show more than once, I have concluded 3 stages on Mijong's journey and her introversion. The first being solitude. Despite seeing her in gatherings and spending time with family and friends, her inner monologues and confessions reveal that she never quite feels content in any of those moments. She's in a constant state of loneliness, which brings us to the next stage, searching for meaning. Mijong is very aware that she needs something in her life. In the first episodes, she claims that this something is rather a someone who makes her feel complete and better. And she believes that the absence of such a person is the reason of her sadness. Funny enough, she chooses Mr. Gu, an alcoholic man who mysteriously popped up one day in their village and works for her father, to be that person and wants that he worships her. I mean, it's more than self-evident that Mr. Gu himself has his own issues he has to deal with first, let alone healing someone else. So how does this whole proceed? With acceptance and healing. Those two go hand in hand. More Mijong accepts herself and learns to love herself, not for the sake of Mr. Gu, but for herself, more confident she becomes. We witness how her confidence increases. The more confident she becomes, the better she connects with those around her. This is a process that unfolds throughout the whole story with many ups and downs. I don't want to spoil any of the plot, but in the end, Mi-jung as well as the audience, we are in a far better place despite everything that happened to her. So what to take out of that? We have a character that portrays sadness, loneliness, depression, and somehow ends up in a better place. Through her story, the show explores challenges introverts face in navigating their social interactions and their place in a society that actually values extroversion. I mean, you can't reach really a good place if you don't have connections, for the simplest example. As cheesy as it sounds, it shows how self-love and acceptance are crucial steps in overcoming harmful solitude and forming meaningful connections. Our protagonist growth serves as a meaningful example that reminds us that introversion should not hinder our ability to find happiness in fulfilling relationships. It's totally normal to recharge your social battery for a whole week of serene nights only after going out for one night. But as challenging as it might seem at first, after coming in terms with ourselves, we have to look forward to the relationships we have and somehow maintain them, even if it sometimes seems like work. In the end, we have to keep those people around us we want to share our best and worst days with.